is just a ratio of the effective intelligence of a group of people and to its individual memory. Second thing, I'll give you some examples. So if you think about a general in a chess player origin, you don't want additional intelligence in your chess pieces. You put them down, you want them to stay there, right? And so as a general, it gets a little bit harder than that because each chess piece does have 10 other chess pieces to direct them. There's like 8 levels of command and the army and so forth. They would like to get to an effective OQ of 1, but they're, in an army you just can't, and that's why we get to turn snap view because the situation normal is less than an OQ of 1. If you think about a symphony, it's much the same thing. There's a conductor, got a bunch of musicians, you can all see me, you can hear me, I will direct you, and our collective piece will be as smart as I am musically. So we will, there you have a better chance everybody's in the same room, you have the better chance of getting somewhere near 1. Now if you're a jazz combo, 3 or 4 people sitting around, you're going to be doing stuff that individually you can't do. You're going to be smarter than the conductor. You're going to be smarter than the general because you're going to do things. Your OQ is going to be way above 1. Now, in a university, my experience is we have people with a higher IQ than normal. I think that's what I'm told. And yet I find collectively our not just where I work, but probably where most people work, the collective or effective intelligence of the group is pretty low. So I think we have an OQ of quite a bit less than 1. It's a ratio, so doesn't, intelligence itself, measures of intelligence are adventures. Are there 1 intelligence or are there 7, et cetera, et cetera? It doesn't really matter to OQ. It's whatever you want intelligence to be to the best of your research. It's a ratio, so whatever measure you apply will work. So that's the third point. In the fourth point, if you think about it, everybody's probably seen by now the little cubic millimeter of mouse brain and all the neurons that come out. And you think in that organism, there are actually, let's say, 3 things to think about. One is the whatever the power is of a neuron to do what it actually has to do, and then the quality of the wiring, and then there's the pattern of the whole thing. People talk about social media as a collective mind. There we have pretty simple set of wires, we don't see, when we look at a screen, we don't see we don't use our peripheral vision. A lot of things that we don't use when we send our little bits and pieces. We don't send whole books of thought down there. We just send the little scraps of stuff. And of course, the neurons at each end were mostly reduced to giving thumbs down or thumbs up. And maybe we extend that into a sentence or 2, but that's really as far as it goes. So the OQ of social media, the social media brain is not very high. I don't think. And part of that is the pattern of the wiring itself, because we all get sorted into our echo chambers, right? So there's actually pretty little of interest happening. So that's the fourth thing is the thinking about the neuron and the quality of the connection and then the pattern of the connection. So when I was talking about the university, because I teach in architecture, because I think about architecture. What always strikes me is the disastrous things that we do when we try to build something, renovate something. I'm not going to give you examples. It's embarrassing. Uh, and it used to annoy me because I used to think, oh, how can there be so many stupid people, doing this, right? And eventually I realized, no, it's not the stupid people. It's actually the system in which they're organized, the inherited system in which they're organized, and what are the sort of patterns of feedback in that system, including the peons, right up the hill and back down again. So typically, and I may not belong actually in this room because I think problem solving and design are two completely different things, and I'm not convinced of the value of problem solving as a mindset. And so typically with a problem solving mindset, you have to decide at the beginning what the problem is, and then you go and then you do your solving. And of course, really as a designer, you are discovering what the worthwhile problem is, which could be very different than the inside there. So there's one organization I heard of. This is the last thing I'm going to say. The one organization I've talked to somebody who used to work there. It's a shipyard in Norway where they build innovative and excellent ships. And you can imagine with the wages in Norway, they have to work pretty hard to stay competitive. And they managed to. So Ulstein shipyard, the communication is wired a little differently than the average Department of Facilities in an institutional setting. So there, my friend Ashley that I was talking to, he said, he's an electrical engineer. He was an electrical engineer, and he was in charge of the electrical design for each ship. And when he was done his drawings, he didn't send them to a superior for approval because they hired him for a reason, and that was his job to come up with a design. So he came up with the best design he could. Then he would send it down to the production department. In that production department, if people saw little efficiencies that could, little improvements that could be made, or if they saw problems that needed to be addressed, they would tell them, "What about this? Let's fix this up, or can we take this opportunity to save some money or to create some extra value, whatever the case may be." And let's say they figured that out, then the production department would send it down to the foreman of the crews, and if the foreman saw the same thing, if they saw something that could be improved or they saw a problem that nobody else had recognized, they wouldn't go to their superior. They wouldn't have had to send it all the way up the hill. They went straight to Ashley and said, "I think this could be done better." And even if somebody was, wiring in the build somewhere, and he thought surely the red wire goes from this room, he didn't send that up some complicated path. He was a phony phone of Ashley. He said, "Are you sure that red wire should come that through?" Right? So you can see the actually tapping into the intelligence of that entire labor force in the shipyard, rather than just having them execute, somebody's direction, actually served them very well. So that was the fifth. And if what I was anticipating was some discussion here, but things are probably a little bit different. I do appreciate the effort here to wire up this room a little bit differently, right? Just in terms of space. Yeah.
It's the first time that we tried this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. First, I was saying, like, filming this, I hope the sound is good because I have to listen to this again. Okay. But I think it's really interesting, especially coming from a university, where and maybe the system is an old one that we're running on, but that is what I would be interested in, how to shortcut what you're saying, like instead of going all the way. Do you have any experience and examples?
Interestingly, I might have a lot more to tell you the day after tomorrow, as it turns out.
Okay, so we have to go home.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's it.
Question, comment. You mentioned that the process of design is different because in design we decide which is a problem first, then we work about it. I disagree with that a little bit. I think we ask questions about how to improve whatever. What is the question? The primary question is how can I make something or design something to solve what may be a problem? Meaning, I don't start finding the problem in one thing. I start solving a possible problem to improve whatever. So what's the difference you were talking about?
Well, when I think about architecture, when I think about designing a house or whatever, that's not a problem to be solved. Anybody, you can ask anybody, once you're 50 miles outside of the city, that somebody can build their own house. Like, it's not a problem to build a house. And of course, as you get closer to the city, it becomes a problem. And I think really for an architect, you can think about solving a problem as an architect, but really you are, somebody wants a house, they're putting some resources into play, and the architect wants to get the best possible results from those resources. And the best possible results may not have anything to do with the problem that these people need to be housed. Right? It's a whole other thing. It's like somebody like so you're actually and you're finding new possibilities. So to me, it's when you're designing a house, it's less to do with solving a problem.
But you're solving a problem of like how this family or this person is solving. I mean, it's not a problem, but it's a necessity, right? If you're solving it.
I think there's more interesting things. I mean, problems need to be solved if they come up. I don't. But I don't think the greatness of human accomplishment comes out of solving a problem. I just don't think so. I don't think, and it could be an art, problem in art, problem design, going to the moon. That's not solving a problem. That was just a cool thing to do. I mean, and there were a lot of problems to be solved in order to get to the moon, but the motivation was not to solve the problem. I mean, maybe it was to create some kind of political cohesion in a country, I guess. So there's always a way of expressing something as a problem to be solved, but I don't think that's, to me, it's not fundamentally useful.
Yeah, no, he has a problem either.
Yeah.
He doesn't need it. Like a need of greediness. So my need is to be brave and so on. And I will build something to get to the moon. So that's
Yeah.
what I need.
My question is very similar, so, and I'm not necessarily a big believer in people having comparisons yet, but it could be a problem somewhere. So, I'm not a designer, but the reason, it's my understanding of why things get designed, the reason either to fix something, maybe a problem, so that chair had three legs on it, and it was working properly. I would consider that a problem. Fixed, if I had a phone and it wasn't functioning because there was some design issue, we want to fix that phone because it might be problematic. It's not working the way it's intended, right? So, I mean, I'm a big believer in, making things better, and sometimes things are a little bit, forward. Some people are forward thinking and designing things for things that folks haven't even recognized as a problem or an opportunity theme. But I think this, from my limited understanding from a design standpoint, the only reason, things have to be designed for a purpose, whether that is like an innovative approach to making things more efficient or to address something that seems to need some help to improve.
So usually it's several purposes.
Right.
So, it's to ultimately a lot of things. The purpose of a lot of things is to keep the abstraction of an economy and economic movement and all of it, so on. Part of the reason a house gets built is to create debt. Right, because the bank needs debt.
But there might be power consumption for a house that's not very efficient. Right? So therefore it's designed to give the material to.
Oh, yeah, no, that's, all those things are, I'm not saying
I
that.
don't want to debate it, but it's just, I do fundamentally disagree, but it's okay.
So when did I say that you disagree?
Well, I'm an architect
Okay,
and basically an enterprise architect, and I look at solving problems.
okay,
And I leverage technology to do that.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times it's just integration and looking at various components to make things more efficient or advance something in an area that people might not have recognized. So that's just what I do all the time. So
Yeah.
for me, it's very near and dear to my heart because that's just what I do and I'm very passionate.
so you're saying the problem. What I was trying to set up is, this is just a minor point.
Yeah.
I can make, but that problem solving and design were separate mindsets, but you're saying it's the same mindset.
Yes, I think, and I guess the question I would put back to you, and maybe you would be able to articulate this from the design standpoint, why do people design things? Right. Okay, so that's.
Maybe we have one more question.
How do you measure both?
It's it's really it's mandatory propagation. I don't think if I said if I say something seems to have a low OQ, it's just meant to be. If I say university is a low OQ example, it's really just it doesn't mean anything. I could say it's 4.472 or whatever. That doesn't mean anything. It's just a provocation so that you think about the system and not about the individuals who appear to be having successes or making mistakes. It's a collective thing, and if you trace out what the rewards and the punishments are in a situation, those. And then I was, the way that at the Holstein shipyard that people bypass, right, both waste of time and the degradation of the signal, they go right back to the guy who signed the. That's just a good example of wiring. So I'm not worried about the number. I'm just, the main value of it is to address, to understand a successful organization or an unsuccessful organization as a pattern, not as, not for the individuals that are.
Hi, I was handed this microphone. Sorry, there we are. I was handed the microphone, so I have to ask a question. So architects and engineers think very differently about this question. Architects lament the fact that engineers solve problems, don't do anything else. There's a high school stage in Antigonish with a column right in the middle of it, because that's where the engineer thought it would be a good place for a column. None of the students or the actors in that place think it's a good idea. So I sometimes think that the difference between an architect's approach and an engineer's approach to a problem is that architects will try to solve a problem while expressing many other ideas or addressing other issues in their lives or in expression of ideas about their culture. Whereas engineers just try to hold the building up or keep the rain out. Maybe very little. Does this get close to the heart of your idea?
Let me tell you, I'll say one thing. The example of the electrical engineer, actually the electrical engineer, is in a way the perfect example, because you can run wires pretty well how you want. It's not going to change the performance, the electrical performance. You have to go around with air handling things. It's very different. And so let's say the refinements that I was talking about within the electrical system don't impinge on other things. Typically, there's a massive amount of integration that an architect does that is not optimizing the individual system. So that's one thing. I mean, I really don't like to generalize about architects and engineers, but in a sense that you are, and yeah, that's it's the OQ question though. As I say, if you're a dance group, the intelligence that you're talking about is not the same as building designers, right? And so hopefully the OQ idea is transferable between different kind of organizations, because it's a ratio of the part and the whole, whatever pertains to that organization, what they're trying to do.
Can I still say something? Emanuel, thank you. I'm also an architect, so bear with us. But I would like to tell a story that I normally tell my students, which are architects, and it's about Shakespeare. Shakespeare was at this moment, there was two paths, and he was asking which one will take me to the village. And a person told him, both of them will take you to the village. One was almost a very defined path, and yes, very clear. The other one, it seems to be even here, because when I tell my students the stories, You will find the water, you will find the bird's nest, you will learn so many things through that path. And he still knows that he was going to the village. And so the story ends with Shakespeare standing saying, and I took the less driven path. And that's what I do all my life. Take the less driven path because I learned so much. But I still have the problem solved at the end, which is the village. I get there.
Thank you. Please continue the conversation after we have all the speakers. And yeah, it's just submit to give the time. Thank you so much.